Hello, I'm Alan Harris, your regional minister for the Christian Church in Ohio. And I wanted to offer a special word to those who have connections with our summer camp conference and retreat program held at Camp Christian. So this is going out to our Camp Christian committee as well as to our various commissions, so that together we might understand a particular aspect of our program perhaps a little bit better. There's a lot going on in regards to Camp Christian, and I can't and shouldn't cover all of those, but I wanted to hone in on a particular aspect of the conversations that have been happening the last few months, and actually the last few years. And that is our relationship with the Christian Church in Ohio and the Heartland Conference United Church of Christ. To set this in context, the Ecumenical Partnership between the United Church of Christ and the Christian Church Disciples of Christ has been going on for decades. In the 1970s and early 1980s, we had several conversations around what it might mean to merge, which we decided not to. But there were some wonderful connections and relationships that were built out of that conversation that last to this day. And certainly the most prominent one would be the fact that our division, or now Disciples Overseas Ministries, has connected with the United Church of Christ's wider church ministries to create the global ministries, which is all of our overseas ministries partners are sent by both denominations at the same time. We don't have separate overseas ministry partners. And so that's the most prominent example, but there are many, many other examples that continue. And here in Ohio, the Heartland Conference of the United Church of Christ and the Christian Church in Ohio have had partnership for quite some time, long before I came here. But certainly I have been working on increasing this, in large part because I just think that we can do things better together. And our two denominations are most similar, and we already have the existing Ecumenical Partnership. So we've been doing interim ministry training together for years, and we have honored each other's clergy standing, certainly since 1979, excuse me, when a formal agreement for Ecumenical Partnership standing was created. But more recently, you've been hearing a lot about how the Heartland Conference and the Christian Church in Ohio are working in partnership with our camp conference and retreat programming. It is fair to say that those of us who are given the middle judicatory level of knowledge, David Long Higgins, the conference minister for the Heartland Conference, and myself as regional minister, have been aware of the shifting nature of camps, particularly church camps. And you will recall that we have been in partnership with the Heartland Conference for a while, then known as the Ohio Conference, when we had our partnership camps with our junior camping program. Those were done at their campsite, but it was for both UCC and Disciples. That fell away, and but now we're talking a kind of big picture. You know that they sold one of their properties some years ago, Pilgrim Hills, and all of their camps have been at Templed Hills, which is just outside of Bellevue and not too far from Mansfield, Ohio. And since I arrived, I've been developing a relationship with David Long Higgins and the 4 association ministers, and been working with our staffs and their staffs to just work better together. But we have known that there was a possibility on the horizon because Templed Hills has been in a major deficit situation for some years. And that has not gotten any better. So part of what we did last year and then this next summer is we are doing a joint promotion of both camp, conference, and retreat programs. You'll recall that beautiful two-color, multicolored poster that I hope you have placed in your churches, and if not, if you would get one and put it up in multiple places and hand them out to parents and anyone that might be attending camp, conference, and retreats. That was a way for us to help get to know one another, to help learn a little bit more about what offerings the other church does, and for them to know what offerings we have. And you'll see some of them overlap and some are very, very different. But that was one way for us to begin to build the relationship. Our camp and conference program staff has done a tour of Temple Hills, and their camp and conference staff have come and done a tour, actually several tours, of Camp Christian. And all this was fairly theoretical until it was announced, and of course I knew it was coming because David and I have been in conversation, that in November of 2023, the board of the Heartland Conference voted to begin the process to close its camp and conference at Temple Hills and sell the land and the facilities. This is heartbreaking. You can only imagine that a lot of grief is going on in the Heartland Conference. They have, of course, experienced this before with the closing of Pilgrim Hills, but that doesn't make the grief with this any less. And I want to begin there because I've been part of several of our conversations where I think our excitement about the possible relationship and further relationship between the two denominations has overlooked the fact that there is a very personal, very heartfelt element of this, and that is a lot of grief and a lot of uncertainty. And so that's where I would encourage us to begin any of our conversations, is just acknowledging what it means for a region or a conference to have to close a camp. The Christian Church Disciples of Christ are not unaware of this. In fact, in my previous region, the capital area region, we had to close a camp that I was doing the preparatory, informational, discerning process, and then my successor then had to lead them through the grief of closing and selling Camp Merrimack. But this is happening really in all the judicatories. The United Methodist Western Conference has had to close and several of its camps. There's a lot of grief, a lot of anxiety, a lot of uncertainty going on. So let's begin there in a pastoral mode with our United Church of Christ siblings in faith. But then, of course, our minds rush to other possibilities. And this is really where I want to focus this video. And that is the possibilities ahead of us. Now, because we've had these conversations recently, I think a lot of folks think that maybe we're farther along, that more decisions have been made that aren't being shared yet. And I need to let you know they're not. There's not a lot going on ahead of us. Because this is a relationship. This is not a corporate merger. This is not, it's a relationship between two bodies of faith trying to figure out their way in the future. And so I would really urge us not to jump to conclusions either about how the Heartland Conference will or will not invest in Camp Christian, or about what that means for numbers with our programs at Camp Christian. I think that most of this excitement is coming from a very genuine space, that we really, really love our Camp Christian and its summer camp, conference, and retreat programs, and that we want nothing more than for other people to enjoy and experience this great thing that we have had. I honor that and I celebrate that. But I also think that for some of us, and I will say myself included, I'm not telling you anything that I haven't struggled with myself, and that is we also are aware of the anxiety of what it means for decreasing numbers in our camps and retreats, and the possibilities of maybe helping to undergird it. We have been doing an awful lot in the Christian Church in Ohio Regional Church to try and think of new ways to support and sustain Camp Christian for the long haul, improving the Monroe Lodge so that it is more of a retreat center, that it can be used year-round, trying to market ourselves for year-round events, increasing the kinds of events that could be there, family reunions and weddings, and trying to encourage our congregations to utilize Camp Christian more and more for their retreats and conferences. And we've become a member of the local business community, and have actually, paid dues so that we're part of that, and they are able then to promote Camp Christian as a place for companies and for organizations and for other churches. And that has been successful. We are increasing our rental income dramatically. It does mean that our own programs need to get their dates in soon because we always give priority to the Christian Church in Ohio programs. That's always been the case. And our church programs always get a reduced rate as opposed to the rate that we would offer for those outside of the church. And that's, of course, natural because of the long history of our congregations and our leaders supporting Camp Christian. But we want to move a little bit farther in that, particularly for the summer program. So let me tell you what is happening. The Temple Hills programs will continue through the end of the summer season 2024. So we will have a second year of jointly promoting our two programs. Again, I hope you've got that poster up at your church in several places, or even in your neighborhood. But we have been in conversation about the 2025 season. And here's where we are. And the Camp Christian Committee has voted on and passed a calendar for 2025. And it looks very different than we've ever seen before. So what is happening is, for those camps and conferences that are similar enough and that our leaders are willing to be in conversation, we are considering a jointly planned, jointly promoted camp. The two that are most obvious are that our grandparents' camp and their Grands and Me camp look like they will be together. It does mean a little bit of give and take for both groups. We get it. But we think that it really will work well. That has been one of their and our most successful programs, so we don't want to mess it up. And our new Encore camp, which is our music camp, looks like it will interact with their music, meditation, arts, drama, dance camp. We think Encore may have something else during the year that's just kind of music focused, but for the most part, those will be jointly planned and jointly promoted and jointly held camps. Then there are some camps that they have that we do not have. For example, they have sports camp. We've never had a sports camp. We've had some variations on that, but and I will tell you, it is one of the most well-attended and therefore, undergirds the camp and conference budget the most. So we have made accommodations for their sports camp. Of course that we hope some of our folks will go to their sports camp. They're more than welcome. But it will be treated in 2025 as a rental. The United Church of Christ Heartland Conference will be renting our space for sports camp. Same thing with the LGBTQIA out camp. And there may be some others. I'm not remembering exactly that schedule. But they will be treated as rentals. Now, they are going to be rented as a church, as a partner church. So not the same as if a corporation wanted to come and have a leadership retreat. So that's what 2025 looks like. And that may last a few years. We don't know. It will be this mixture of jointly planned, promoted, and held, led camps and rentals. During this time, of course, we will be in conversation about what the future may hold. I believe the Heartland Conference is holding camps and conferences elsewhere also, or at least they were considering that. So it's not like, we are all the opportunity, the only option that they have. And they may find some places where their camps and conferences work better than Camp Christian. It's hard to imagine, but that is a possibility. So that is what's happening. I know a lot of us want to move to that place, and I will tell you, I've thought it too, that maybe some of the money from the sale of Temple Hills might go into Camp Christian. We've got some big projects we're working on. We have the major fundraising campaign that's going to be going on to help make Camp Christian our regional ministry center year-round and improve staffing. But I will urge you that while we all think this and we imagine the possibilities, it really is not helpful to talk about those things in public conversation, because that really presumes that they will decide to invest in us, and they might not. They have their own funding issues, their own larger conference needs that may or may not align with ours. And the really hard thing for me to say to our folks is that when we go there, that the Heartland Conference may decide to invest some money in Camp Christian, we're not also realizing that there then needs to be a conversation about joint ownership. Because you would not invest in someone else's house to any significant degree if you didn't also want to be on the deed. Let's just be crass there. And no one, I hear no one talking about what would it mean for us to jointly own or have some kind of joint investment in Camp Christian. I have no idea what that means, and I have no idea how that might happen, but I need you to know that when you go there, that is part of it. So what I'd like to invite us is to just sit with what is happening the next couple of years, and that is the joint planning, promotion, and leadership of some of our camps, and the Heartland Conference renting from us. And we'll see how the relationship goes. And if we decide to move farther down the way with some kind of a real substantial investment by the Heartland Conference in Camp Christian, we will have done a heck of a lot of work to understand what that means and exactly how to make that fair and equitable for all parties involved. But now let me address the second issue, and that is about participation. Excuse me, allergies are getting to me. I have also heard in some of our conversations this assumption that because the Heartland Conference has not had a pure junior camp or elementary school camp, or a pure middle school camp, or Cairo camp, or a pure high school camp, or a CYF camp. And by pure, I mean solely devoted to that age group. And I don't know their history, but the partnership camps were probably the closest to that. There's this assumption that because they don't have it, that they will flock to ours. But I want to remind us, in the same way, I'm not assuming that our folks will flock to their sports camp or their out camp or their mad camp. Because there's no culture. There's no history of that in each of the different denominations. If you don't have a history of having a solely dedicated high school camp, it's really just not wise, and I don't think it's very practical to think that suddenly they're going to see a high school camp offered, I'm going to go to it. They have the same issues that we have in regards to how busy our children and youth and young adults are during the summer. And they may already be committed to, say, sports camp and then band camp with their high school. So to just imagine that they're going to drop into CYF because it's there. Now, we did have some success this last year because of the joint promotion, and as I understand it, about 7 UCC high school youth came to the first CYF camp, and about 7 came to the second. Great. I don't have numbers on whether or not any of our disciples went to their camps. So obviously, we would love for our children, youth, and young adults, and adults, and I'll get to that in a moment, to work with each other's camp, conference, and retreat programs. But it is fair to say that to count on that as the salvation of our programs is not right, is not helpful, is not good. I at this moment, what I really need to say is the thing that will help sustain our camps, that will help undergird the future of our conferences and our retreats, is for each and every one of us to take seriously the evangelical call to spread the good news of what is happening in our camp, conference, and retreat program. You need to invite someone to camp. And if you're a counselor or you're a director or an AD or a staff member, I love you and thank you for that, but that does not get you off the hook from inviting someone. There is nothing more powerful, and this goes for our churches too, than for one person to say, I have experienced this amazing program. It's life-giving and transforming. Would you come? Would you invite your child to come? Would you consider sharing this with the young adults in your church? So I really hope, and that's why I've been pushing for us to put our posters up and to get word out. Pick a day at your church to make it Camp Promotion Sunday, and make sure that you've got copies of the information for all the camps. And if you don't have them, hopefully your church office does by now. But if not, you can always contact Jenny Stoddard Bernard, and she will send you whatever you need, either electronically or in paper format. So that is what will help, quote unquote, save our camps, conferences, and retreats, is for us to actually invite someone to camp. And I want to also note that we are doing a joint camp, a joint conference with the adults this year. We tried it last year. This year it is much more integrated. An adult conference, which is held at Northwest Christian Church, and we stay in a nearby hotel, is truly jointly United Church of Christ and Christian Church Disciples of Christ. And same thing goes for that. We are not planning on this joint nature to be the means to bring in hordes of people, but rather it is an opportunity for us to get out the word and talk about the good things that are planned about that. So those are the things that were on my heart and mind that I really needed for you all to be thinking about. I wanted you to know what has been planned and what has not been planned. There absolutely is no conversation about any kind of a joint ownership of the camp or joint, investment in the camp. It really, at this point, it is 2024 joint promotion of both camp and conference and retreat programs at their separate campsites. 2025, this amalgam of jointly planned and led camps and rentals by the Heartland Conference at Camp Christian. And then we'll see where the relationship takes us. So thank you so much for listening. I know I talked longer than I probably ought to and could tighten this up, but I hope I have given you at least some information that will help you understand what's going on in the program. I do encourage you to reach out to me either via cell phone or email if you have any questions about this. And please spread the word. When you hear someone speak some misinformation, I really would encourage you to say, I've learned something different than what you said. And really keep the excitement going, but don't let the excitement about this relationship get ahead of us, because our partners don't want to be taken for granted. They don't want to be presumed to do anything. It's all about relationship building. And that's what we're doing. So thank you so much for taking time, and I appreciate it. And God bless you one and all. Thank you for the wonderful work you do for the Camp Conference and Retreat programming of the Christian Church in Ohio, especially at Camp Christian. Take care, and God bless. Bye-bye.